Hello and welcome to another episode of Test Chamber. I am Joe Juba. I am joined by Kimberley Wallace.
Hello.
And we are checking out World of Final Fantasy.
Yay.
Which is, man, the easiest way to describe it is just sort of Final Fantasy, the greatest hits.
That sounds great to me.
So it's basically like a single RPG that's done very much in like a sort of old school, like Square's more old school style. But it brings together a bunch of characters, a bunch of monsters just from the entire Final Fantasy canon. I mean, you can see right now we are fighting in the...
Vivi.
Yep, I've got a little... They're actually... Well, we'll get into this in a little bit. But, so we're in a Mako Reactor now. I have some... Yeah, you might recognize some of the monsters I've got. We've got a little, like, black mage on top of my head there. The other character, the girl in the background there, is on something that's kind of like... it reminds me of War Mech. It's like from the first Final Fantasy. It's sort of in that vein of design or something. It's called...
Do you get to change the little things that they're riding?
Yeah. So the whole game is like has a really weird kind of setup, which is it's all about stacks. So I'm like
stack setup.
So you've basically got a two person party system where so these are the two I'm using right now, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the Lan and Rain are your two protagonists. You pretty much need them in your party all the time. But you choose which monsters go on their heads or below them. And so basically, like, Lan and Rain are your two main party members, and when they're a stack, they act as one stack, but that stack's abilities change depending on its makeup. Depending on which monsters you have in your stack, you can do different abilities. And it's not just the abilities that the monsters have individually, but also like the characters' different abilities can stack. So I want to show see if I can find a good example here of like Lan can do Cure and he can also do Cura. Right? But that little icon there, he doesn't know, no one in my stack knows the spell Cura, but because two of them know Cure, it stacks, like the ability stacks like that. So that's kind of interesting. And it ends up being a fun way for you to sort of experiment. And it's a good way. I mean, so the thing to get out of the gate right away here too, is that this game definitely has a sort of like gotta catch 'em all Pokemon sort of vibe to it. Like, in addition to just the traditional RPG mechanics, you're going to want to like just go out. Like, there's something exciting about collecting all of these monsters that you're familiar with from
I bet.
Final Fantasy history. So I don't have them all in my stack right now, but and then there's one other thing to talk about with stacks too before I forget, and that's the stacks that I'm using now are counting on Lan and Rain being medium sized, but you can change them to be large sized if you want, in which case they have something else has to be the medium sized one. So really, yeah. Oh man, and I was so the Skull Eater is one of my favorite little things from Final Fantasy. That's a Final Fantasy V thing. So but you can only use, each character can only have one stack active at a time, and you can't switch mid battle. So you kind of have to, get it set up a little bit, beforehand. We'll go with our other ones for now.
Oh, there you go. You're big now.
Yep. So really being big or small doesn't have any influence on like how things work, except for just like the monsters in your stack.
Okay.
When you're large, you can't have a large monster in your stack. When you're medium, you can't have a medium monster in your stack. So you sort of have to weigh those things. So yeah, that's sort of the basics of it. You can see that sometimes enemies here are also stacked, like the bomb on that little Hydra's head. So part of the strategy then becomes, I mean, I'm going to be too strong and I'm just going to kill these guys.
Oh, you can unstack,
But like,
I saw.
part of the strategies is to like try to get, so you can unstack.
Oh.
But part of the strategy is to try and get the monsters unstacked because they're weaker. Just like you, they're weaker when they're not all together. So now, instead of having basically a two-party or a two-character battle system,
Now you have 4.
I have 6 different
6.
different characters that I can issue commands to.
I can't do math, haha.
But the characters are super weak like this. There are some times that you may want to do it, but it's
very
super
rarely.
rare during my whole playthrough of this game that I like deliberately unstacked.
So how do you get the enemy then to unstack? Is it just by...
So you have abilities that sort of have different toppling strengths. So, like there might be an attack that doesn't do much damage but has a high topple strength, and then, that helps split them off.
Gotcha.
And you want to do that because you can't collect enemies until they're unstacked.
Oh.
So if there's an enemy you don't have and it's in a stack, first you want to knock the stack over, and then you want to like do what you need to do to actually like capture that enemy. So yeah, it gets sort of involved that way. But yeah, and so you'll see now where we've
Is
gotten.
that a quest?
Yeah, so there are people who just like ask you to do things. I already accepted that quest. But then there are familiar characters like here's Terra from Final Fantasy VI.
And she's adorable.
And man, I like it. There's so much to talk about with this game because like I also really like just the overall visual style. I know some people think that that maybe that sort of kitty look on them or whatever isn't great, but for me it's just like everything sort of has this like toy box quality to it.
Yeah, definitely.
That I really enjoy. I like when the characters are little like that. You mentioned Vivi before. There's actually
very
like that's straight up Vivi.
Okay, that is awesome. So it's just like, who are you going to run into? What monsters are you going to be able to collect?
Yeah. So for those reasons, World of Final Fantasy is, in some ways just like a love letter to people who, I mean, especially liked the older Final Fantasy games. But before we get into the buts, I want to show you a little bit here too about how the progression works, because like these aren't even all the characters I have. These are just
Gilgamesh.
all the ones I have with me now. You like Gilgamesh, huh?
Yeah.
So part of the way this works is that each monster has its own little grid. So every monster you collect has its own personal like, hey, increase agility. There we go. So it's almost like its own little like sphere grid.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, it reminds me of the sphere grid.
So
that is a good thing.
Defense, but then in some cases, you need these special mementos to actually transform the monsters into other ones. So there are some monsters that you can't catch just normally.
You have to fuse to get them.
They essentially have to like evolve
to that point. Yeah. But can you fuse them together?
No, there's no fusion for it.
Okay.
But now, so that little black choco thing that I have, will this let me actually do any management? Yeah. Okay. So this little black chocobo that I have, because I just unlocked that, I can now turn him into Hyperion. But I don't need to start all over, because even though he's Hyperion now, he still has some of these abilities. Basically, the ones I think the way this works is the ones that have the white outlines are the ones that are exclusive to that particular form. So like as Hyperion, he won't have Ram, he wouldn't have Stroll if I did that. But so it's basically that all of these unhighlighted abilities are just sort of passive boosts that no matter what form the monster's in, it gets the benefit.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. And it definitely sort of gets, adds this element of like, adds a degree of growth and investment into the monsters. So maybe you'll just want to take a quick second here too to talk about or to show off maybe some of the cooler monsters.
Yeah, let's see more.
So like this character, this is Ramule. She was created for this game as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I don't recognize.
She's like Ramu's granddaughter or something like that. But so yeah, I mean, we have classic Chocobo, these little like Mews, the Skull Eater's kind of one of those.
Of course.
Malboros, the Iron Giant. So there's also a class of monster that's like the extra large class that they sort of function more like the summons from Final Fantasy 12. Where they, or even like, I guess 10 is maybe more accurate. They fight alongside you for a little while. So yeah, we've got Ahriman, a lot of, baby behemoth, several kinds of Moogles,
I love it.
Valafor, a bunch of different Cactuar things.
As there should be.
Yeah, Tonberries. So, I mean, again, if you're a fan of the series, there's no shortage of,
And there's 200 to collect in total.
I don't actually know the total number of them. I think
I thought maybe that at the bottom.
Yeah, I think maybe that lets you carry a little extra.
Oh, that's what you can carry.
I have I have about, I think it's like 80% of my like monster case set up or like filled. I know about 80% of the different monsters.
Nice.
So I think that maybe it lets you have some spares. But anyway, so this is sort of your hub for the game, where you sort of go to, there's really not much to do here except buy items if you need them and manage some of your monsters and stuff. But there's this little area that's fun, which part of the way the game gets its like fan service stuff in is by letting you just sort of go in choose from a bunch of these different missions that either sort of echo familiar scenes from older Final Fantasies, or just put them in like, just give your characters a chance to be in the spotlight a little bit, or not the familiar characters.
Yeah.
What guy? Impeccable timing, Cloud.
Oh, so Cloud's after some guy, right? I wonder who that could be. I think that's going to be DLC, actually, the Sephiroth fight or something.
What? An opera?
Not interested.
No way.
Now, not so fast.
So yeah, so there's going to be like a little, they're going to do like a little opera scene. Now, I should also point out in moments like this that is a little touch, but I really appreciate it, that you get to fast forward if you've seen these scenes before. So yeah, that's kind of nice.
I don't expect us to.
So what is the main? Is there like a main story?
Yeah. So the basic idea is that those two heroes, Lon and Rain, are in this world, and they're told by basically like a god that, hey, just go out and collect monsters. They call them mirages in the game, but like, yeah, go and collect mirages and you'll figure it out. And that's basically the plot.
Okay.
So this
Very
is
detailed
and
there.
this is something you can see in my review too, that like the plot of this game is just practically unbearable for me. Like, well, not just the basic plot actually isn't anything bad, but just like the execution, the characters are just kind of like, they try so hard to be funny and it's just not funny and
flat,
annoying.
yeah.
And so it's just like, I was just grimacing through pretty much every major cutscene. Yeah.
What do you want? A mirage?
So of course, who's going to interrupt her opera?
Oh no.
Watch it.
So yeah, so that's kind of fun. So I mean, like, I don't want to say too much about the actual story as it develops. Apart from just saying, like, part of my complaint is like not only was it not funny when it was trying to be, but it also really plateaus for a while, which like you get into the world and you're sort of wondering like, okay, what's going on? And the game does this sort of like, oh, cryptic, who's that person who just showed up for a second? But like it never gives you enough to really form a mystery, like a sense of mystery about it until like 40 hours in, and then it finally just basically just says, okay, yeah, here's what's been going on. But there's no sense of like, oh, one question got answered, but I'm presented with more questions to wonder about. Like there's never any like growing sense of mystery. It's always just like, okay, I don't know what's happening. Oh, now I know what's happening.
So you just said 40 hours in. How long did this game take you to beat, Joe?
So I was being pretty thorough with it, actually. Like I said, I got about 80% of my like monster index complete or whatever. So I think I was at around the 70-hour mark when I finished it. And some of that time may have been like sitting idle or whatever. So I don't know if that's like,
I think a lot of people
totally accurate.
Yeah.
But I mean, like we're not like. It's not like the clock read 70 hours and it was only 40 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're talking maybe a swing of like 5 hours.
Wow, so there's a lot to do. We'll say in the game a lot to it. Because, I mean, my impression when I first saw this, I was like, oh, it's going to be probably like a shorter RPG, 20, 25 hours or so. So I'm surprised to hear that, yeah, it actually has... It's a chunky RPG to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, definitely more to it than I thought there'd be.
I just love the little battle system. It's cute.
Yeah, sorry, just normal attacks are boring. I should do something cooler.
Let's get some of them.
Let's do like, okay, so here's Ramule. Her ultimate attack is Heaven's Wrath.
Wow. Oh.
So the battle system itself sort of goes back to like the ATB days. It shows you who's coming up when and stuff like that. But it's definitely old school in that sense, and I really appreciate that element of it too. Here we'll do. Oh, here's a classic. We'll do Flare. You can fast forward the battle system also, which I like.
Nice. How are the boss battles?
So the main challenge in this game, it's not really so much about like the battles being difficult or having much of a trick to them, as much as it is just like the real challenge is catching the monsters in the way that you want to, like the monsters you want to catch. When you get to a boss fight, like I guess with there were a couple exceptions, boss fights that were maybe a little more, can I do any champions yet? Oh, you know what I can do? Mega Mirage. No, I can't.
Oh, no.
Dang it.
Do you have an item that you can restore so you can do it?
Yeah. Here. Well, he's going to die, but whatever. That's fine. Here, well, where's my Mega Ether? There we go.
There you go. Let's see it.
So yeah, this is what Bahamut's gonna look like. I don't think it's a big surprise that that Bahamut features, has a role in this game.
Not surprised at all.
But okay. So what I was saying before is that like the bosses aren't hard there. I had a couple War of Attrition sort of fights that got frustrating for me, but for the most part, it's not like the bosses are super challenging. The real challenge is like being able to capture a monster that you want by like, some of them have specific conditions like you need to inflict a certain status ailment, or you need to restore their hit points, or you need to inflict, a certain percentage of damage on them, or like of their total health all at once, or things like that.
Times where you accidentally killed a monster you wanted to catch, or is there a way to avoid that?
Sometimes, but never, I don't think there's ever the sense of like you only have one chance to get them and they died and then you're screwed. Because well, that really didn't do a whole lot of damage to him. But like in those cases, if it's a rare monster, I mean, it might not be easy to encounter them again, but a lot of times you might like, there's a coliseum that you can go to that you can sort of find them into. Yeah, hilarious. I was hoping they'd give me a skip option. So anyway, that's sort of the short version there. But yeah, it's collecting the core fun of the game is seeing all of these old characters that you recognize. And then some of them like Celeste and Cloud, I don't have the meter full right now to be able to do it, but they come in like more traditional summons where it's just like, they come in for one hit, one big attack, and then, that's that. But yeah, the big draws are like for old school fans, it's basically like seeing all of these familiar things from the series, that gotta catch them all mentality of like, oh man, just a little further and I can, get a Marlboro or something. And then you're like, yeah, like then it's fun to like ride around on that thing for a while. And just like the old school battle system, which is simple, but effective. And I think the whole stacking mechanic is a good way for them to sort of encourage experimentation by getting a bunch of different monsters in there, so you can like, so you can see what they all do. The only thing to be, I would say, go in with your eyes open, because like all of that stuff to me, when you list all that down, just sounds like a dream. Yeah. For a Final Fantasy fan. And I think if you go in with your eyes open and are aware of the fact that like you should not be expecting a whole lot from the story, like because it's set in this like what if world, kind of like the game, if you remember like Dissidia, or even Final Fantasy 13-2 to a degree, is like whenever you're dealing with that sort of narrative device that's just like anything can happen, then it just nothing ever really makes sense as to like why characters are doing what they're doing or why they are what they are. You're just supposed to like shrug it off. And I think once I got to the level with this game that I sort of was able to tune out the story a little bit, it made it sort of just reduced the games to like the references that I enjoyed and the combat system that I think is fun. And once I got there, I was sort of able to I was able to enjoy it a little more, I think. So yeah, that's sort of the quick takeaway on it.
And I think the battle system's enough for me in catching the monsters. I'm gonna have to try this for sure.
Yeah, I want to see if we can build up our meter, or if they're gonna kill us. One way or the other, this test chamber is gonna be over shortly. But I also was gonna say I appreciate how it, for all of the popular references that it gets in there, I really like that they managed to get in some more obscure things also. Can I do anything cool? Let's see what Gilgamesh can do for us. I like that it manages to get in some more obscure things. Like I mentioned, the Skull Eater I think is fun. And then one of them, because I finally just got it, Shulk is a character from Dirge of Cerberus. So they definitely it's a little bit of a deep cut. It's not like anyone's like, I can't wait to see more of those characters from Dirge of Cerberus. But this is what these sequences look like, where you basically have these medals for them, and then they come and do some sort of flashy attack that is either like a benefit to you, like healing or something like that, or a big like damaging attack to the enemy.
Oh,
and they often come with like buffs too.
She means business. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no healing business.
Yeah, so I guess Shulk is more helpful than anything else, but oh, I wonder. We can't even call in Bahamut to end this business. So, well, you know what? I think that's.
I think your guy stumbling there.
Oh yeah, so that means. Yeah, that means that he is going to. That's what it looks like when your stack is
about to fall.
Is about
That's
to fall
actually
over.
funny.
But
really
there he
struggling.
goes. So he fell down. Yeah. So you see, then their hit points sort of break down individually, and they don't share their hit point pool anymore. But anyway, I think that's generally a good look at the game. Like I said, it's actually for something that looks so. I mean, that has a sort of toy-like aesthetic. You might expect it to be a little less intense than it is, and it just means that like this game is a time commitment. It definitely rewards knowledge of like if you try to optimize, you're definitely rewarded for that. And and just the complexity of all of your characters having and all of the monsters having their own leveling systems and stuff like that really just sort of gives it an element of depth that I wasn't expecting and was really happy to find. But
one question I have before we go is, so if you haven't played a lot of Final Fantasies, is just everything going to go over your head? Do they explain who these characters are to people?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that, and really, I think if you have not played and don't have some sort of nostalgic connection to some of those older Final Fantasies, I think you could pass this up.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want to say that the battle system alone is enough to carry it, but I don't know. For me, I guess it's also hard to. It's hard for me to be totally accurate on that because I do have a long history with this series, so it's hard to say for sure. But I feel like so much of the fun comes from seeing these familiar things, seeing these cameos. They don't build them up. I mean, when they introduce characters, you're definitely just kind of supposed to know who they are.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, again, because the story is just kind of unimportant anyway, maybe you can look past that if you just really want to if you just really want to engage with the battle system and see the art style and all that. But I would say that the game was not made for you in that sense.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying that you can't enjoy it, but it really seems to be more made for someone who has a long appreciation for Final Fantasy and just kind of wants to see it all together.
Very cool.
So, all right. Well, this fight is basically over at this point. I haven't been paying close attention.
Punch in the arm, yeah.
But before I see the indignity of defeat, I'll just say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Test Chamber.